I want to share with you an approach that we embrace as SAVI coaching, and it's really our mission for how coaches approach learning, and that's what we're trying to share with coaches. So real quick, who's this guy right here? Wilt Chamberlain, all right. And you probably know that he scored 100 points in a game. If you know this story, have heard me share it before, please don't give it away. Does anyone have a guess as to what was unique or interesting about this 100-point game? Anybody have a guess?
No video evidence.
Yeah, so it probably didn't happen like the moon landing. Yeah, okay. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, this is good. This is gonna be new. Who's heard me tell this story before and can remember what I said? Oh, good. Now I don't feel like my father telling the same story 12 times in a row. Okay, so what's actually unique and interesting about this 100-point game is it's the first time that Wilt Chamberlain ever shot free throws underhand. So a lot of people don't know is that Wilt was actually teammates with Rick Barry. And Rick was so disappointed in his poor free throw shooting that in secret he taught him how to shoot free throws underhand. And as you probably know, Wilt Chamberlain was historically a terrible free throw shooter, less than 50% per game. And what other teams would do is the only way they could guard him was they would employ 2 or 3 just thugs that would go in there and just foul him over and over again and send him to the line. In fact, one of his early coaches said, hey, Wilt, if you could make free throws, we'd probably never lose another game. And so Rick Barry taught him in private. And in his 100-point game was the first time he rolled out the underhand free throw. He went 28 for 32 from the free throw line that game. And that's what led to this historic 100-point game. The very next game, he scored 78 points, also shooting underhand, shooting over 90% from the free throw line. The next game, raise your hand if you think he continued shooting underhand. Yes, if you think so. And you're wrong. He stopped. That would be smart, right? He stopped shooting underhand, went back to shooting overhand, and went back to being a 44% shooter for the rest of his career. And that's why none of us associate him with shooting underhand. So why in the world would he have massive success, set the all-time scoring record shooting underhand, but then never go back to it? So I said that this is going to be a little bit interactive, so if you can just indulge me here, take 20 seconds, turn to the person next to you and tell them, why do you think he would stop shooting underhand? Go ahead. Tell the person next to you. All right, is anybody willing to have a little courage and share with the group what they think? Why do you think? Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Pride, ego, doesn't look good.
You're exactly right.
Teammates said, what are you doing that for?
Yeah, so basically he said in his memoir that he knew he was a much better free throw shooter underhand, but he was afraid of looking like a sissy. Right, is that what you said? Yeah, right? Like the biggest, strongest, most athletic, most dominant player of the era cared about looking foolish more than he cared about being his best, right? Naval Ravikant would call that playing status games, right? He was playing a status game instead of the real game, which is being successful on the basketball court. So why do I share that story often? It's because of this. Too often in coaching, we're not actually playing a basketball game. As coaches, we too often play status games. We care too much about how we look, how we might appear to our players, to our stakeholders and parents, to other coaches. And especially like an environment like this or any coaching clinic, a lot of times we're like looking around like, okay, who else is here? What might they think of a question that I ask? You know, what might they think of me if I need to ask a question and don't understand something? Well, that's just status games. That's going to keep us from being our best. One of my favorite statements from Tony Robbins was this. I see many of you taking notes. I would encourage you to maybe write this one down. He says that the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your questions. The quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your questions. And so I would encourage you as you take part in maybe this workshop or future coaching clinics, you get to go observe practices, as you continue on your coach development journey, when listening to a piece of information, I would encourage you to think about what questions come up for you and actually write your questions down. Almost more so than you might write down a piece of information. What questions do you have? Because so often we go to these coaching clinics and we get all this information, and then we go and try to implement someone else's information or someone else's, framework or system, and it's not ours. Well, the questions are what can make this yours, and that's why we're calling this a workshop and not a coaching clinic. It's because we want to dive into the questions. And so as we ask you questions and you ask us questions, please don't let a status game keep you from getting the absolute most you can get out of this short experience, right?